It's The Perfect Union, the perfect podcast for the perfect country. Brought to you by your perfect host, Hank Thompson, for you, the perfect listener. Hello, everybody. Perfect Union is the politics wing of Winners and Losers Enterprises and Apocalypse training courses. Don't forget to sign up for our upcoming class, Vegan Cannibalism. It's possible. Find out how with a 6-week course by our world-famous team of crazed dietitians. Must bring your own hubcaps. Hi, everybody. Hank back. Hank here. Doing another show, episode 15. We've reached that's a real milestone. The podcast is old enough to ask its parents if it can borrow the car to go sell drugs down at the mall. People go to malls still? Is that a thing? I had a job where I used to hang out at the mall. I'll tell you more about that on my upcoming Patreon exclusive episodes. I did actually create a Patreon account because ultimately the key to happiness is to not have a boss. Honestly, that's really the goal of my life, is to just do my own shit. I'd like to work with cool people, maybe have a temporary boss on like a fun assignment, because there's people with more power that could say, hey, Hank, dance, you little fucker, make some videos for me, you little piece of shit. This is all scripted, by the way. No, it's fun. I like to collab. Okay. But man, working for some asshole, I've worked for people I started out respecting. Okay. That's just a summary there. So anyway, how's everybody doing? We've got some good stories coming up. We're going to talk a little bit about the Democrats, the policies and stuff. Not super detailed. Got to talk about the, let's see, fuck, how could I not know? Jesus. Trump has been displaying his unique brand of populist charm recently on Axios, which is, I don't know, HBO News or some shit. I don't know what the fuck Axios. It's a new. I guess it's. I feel like it wasn't a thing 3 years ago, and then all of a sudden there's Axios. I guess that's how it works. You make new news companies, just like Perfect Union. I guess why I keep saying I guess. God, it's so. Of course, a big explosion in Beirut just happened. I was producing the show this morning. I always want to make these about 45 minutes to an hour, then I end up doing 2 or 3 hours, and this is probably going to be one of those too. I'm loquacious, perhaps circumlocutory, and it's a problem. I really need to start to edit myself a little better. And I get rambly, but you know what? It's what I do. So I was working on it this morning and kind of just gathering stuff, clipping out little bits to read that'll also be in the video if you're watching this on YouTube or at least listening on YouTube with the occasional video to look at. And Twitter suddenly erupted. Maybe not the right choice of words. With this massive, horrifying explosion in Beirut. So we're going to talk about that a little later. Feels a little like I'm making disaster porn, but I don't know. It's in the rundown. So we're doing it. And that's a rough outline. So real quick, though, I think I like the term pre-ramble for this opening bit before we actually get to the stories. Part of me just wants to just turn on the microphone and start talking and not bother with all this production shit. I would have already had this probably posted. I've been working on this since like 6 this morning. It's 11 a.m. 6:30. No, you know what? Yes, closer to 7. Okay. But if I just like sit down and record, I'd probably still be able to make a somewhat, well, let's not say entertaining, but it would be a file. There would be a .mp3 to put into the feed. Another droplet of urine to cast into the flowing waters of Niagara Falls. Or choose any waterfall you like for that metaphor. Right over the edge and into oblivion. Only to be mined in case someone really doesn't like you and wants to get mad at you for something about something. So Quarantine America, we're in the early phases. This is year 1. It's going to be a long time, especially if the Trump regime is quote unquote re-elected, air quotes, inverted commas, as my British friends like to say. And, it's just weird. It's just weird and fucked up. Everybody's a little stressed, a little overwhelmed. There's all sorts of anger and insanity and dullness, boringness, fear, death. Sad death, confusion, and it's become politicized in America because we're a completely dysfunctional country, which is, the more you learn about American history, I've been listening to some history podcasts, Listening is really more my reading. I need to read, but and reading is such better mental health wise, because you focus on it. You're just in it. You're present. You're reading. But when I'm listening to shows or podcasts, I'm usually doing other things. But anyway, the more you learn about American history, the more you realize that this all is pretty much inevitable. It's like they just lit a fuse and said, let's set this up so that a whole bunch of people have really stressful lives, but they'll have no power. And then we'll busy ourselves, and the ruling class and the children of the rulers will become the next rulers, and they will also busy themselves managing the stresses and dodging the guillotines. And they come up with all kinds of innovative ways to prevent the guillotines from coming out. That's a metaphor, okay? It's worked so far, but the stresses are sort of like the fuse is kind of all the way through history, through time, and the current history. We need to come up with a new concept of what history is, because we're living history right now. I think we're in a pretty historic shift. There's often periods of calm, and then there's periods that they make books and documentaries and movies about, and this is going to be one of them. And I can't wait for the Ken Burns Trump documentaries. Aren't those going to be weird? You think they'll have the Civil War style, like my dearest Pepe Dick 2014? You won't believe the cucks I had to slay on the Call of Duty forums today. I'm improvising. I don't know. So anyway, why am I talking about that? How's your hair doing? I love talking about hair. I've been a bald for a long time, more than I wasn't a bald. And now that I'm growing all my hair out of solidarity with you hairs, I hate it. I keep saying that, but it gets thicker. Not thicker. I have shitty, thin little fucking hairs. But like, I can comb it. I feel like a pretty lady. Like the belle of the ball when I comb the side of my hair and make crazed faces at the mirror. It's just like a teen girl getting ready for her debutante. What the fuck? But it's hot. The summer is not good for hair. It makes me really want to be one of those dogs who gets shaved bald, except for just for the air conditioning factor. I don't know why I'm doing this. Who do I think? It's not going to get me laid or something. Not as if that's the only motivation, but I would definitely grow my hair out if that meant that. I've humiliated myself in all sorts of ways in the pursuit of DNA satisfaction. Fucking Darwin, horniness. What a scam, being horny all the time. When does that stop? Fucking nightmare. Okay, yeah, quit swearing so much. But no, I'm just growing out my hair. At this point, I'm just kind of curious to see how it goes. I don't have any shampoo. I have a bottle of body wash that I was never using, but now I'm using that as shampoo. Yeah. So mad respect to everybody with your hair. I just feel like you all got scammed with your hair, okay? Because you're spending shit tons of money and worrying about it all the time. Baldness is a gift, and I am looking forward to the day I go back. I should. I really should. I cut my own hair. It's easy. I could end this. I could do this during this podcast. Wouldn't that be fucked up? By the way, I think I did trim my beard a little bit, and I got a couple beard hairs, I think, stuck in my t-shirt. And you just it's like being stabbed by really tiny knives. So it's an itchy thing. It's like if you had a mosquito corpse stuck to your chest. That's what I was doing last night. More personal news. I haven't been bitten by bugs in about a week. So things are looking up. I went through a period a couple weeks back where I was a crop for the insect kingdom that lives in my bedroom. These fuckers, I would wake up at least every day. Well, like there was a stretch, where like I was not without a bug bite that I either on my legs, on the vast sweep of translucent, soft white skin. I don't have any hair on my legs. How about that, huh? Yeah, I know. That's not something. Is that good or bad? I don't know. Make a good swimmer. I got big shoulders, long arms, and no hair on my legs. And I'm bald. I think God was trying to say something. He was saying, Hank, you would have been a JV swimmer in high school. No, but seriously, small feet. Not would have worked out. But I was waking up with these bug bites, and they're itchy. And you got like a little, are those called rashes? Do you call that a rash? or just a wound, or but it is an immune response. I mean, isn't that right? Like it's a bite, more of a prick, and then the body responds to the chemical from the bite or something by swelling the area, creating inflammation, which causes blood flow, which introduces the healing process that is magical. And one of the most beautiful parts about biology is that it grows itself back together within reason. You know, some things you can't come back from, as vampires all know. So yeah, that's good. I haven't been bitten in a while, so that's good. One day I woke up with 2 big ones right on my love handle, right on this slab of fat that I carry around on the side of my body. Huge fucking bites right next to each other. Like a vampire with skinny fangs got me. And man, I was like, what the fuck? So I decided I was going to clean under the bed and raid these bastards. I am their god. I sleep above them. I have a superior intelligence. I have a superior muscles. Okay? Perhaps even a superior intellect. But I realized, and it's good to get the vacuum out and go under your bed every once in a while. You know, get those old Chipotle napkins and seltzer cans out of there. Maybe that sock you've been looking for. Perhaps a woodworking tool or two. And I didn't, although I need to, because it is funky. Think about that. Think about all the dusty little surfaces in your house that you are not cleaning, and it should haunt you. And I'm trying to trigger you if you have OCD. I have a little. All right. So yeah, weird times, isn't it? Just crazy ass life. Weird being alive. I feel very fortunate for some of my conditions, not like health conditions, but just like general circumstances. And I'm working all the time to try to improve them. But it is. I do feel like we need to sign off our emails with worst. We need to get rid of this best bullshit. All right, it ain't nobody's best, comma, dash Hank. It's worst. So do that with trusted sources. If it don't do it for job applications or bosses or workplace issues, because you got to be a whole different person when you're doing your work, don't you? Isn't that fucked up? We all live in this system where we all have to pretend to be somebody we're not for the majority of our waking hours and energy. It's outrageous. So worst, comma, you know what I'm saying. And Bum Rush Industries is cooking along. I spent a good bit of the day drawing a toilet. People on YouTube can see it right now, and it is weirdly realistic. There are some missing pieces still I got to work on, but if you've seen the previous woodworking video, a toilet plays a role. I'm building a product that is a toilet accessory, and I only drew a part of the toilet for the last one, so that I got inspired, like Monet, like Dolly Parton, like the great artists of history. I was inspired to complete an entire full-size toilet, and I figured this toilet will probably feature in much of my offerings here when I build out bumrushindustries.com website I'm working on. I thought I was real confident about the website, and then all of a sudden I was like, fuck, I don't know. I can't. There's too much. So yeah, check out that toilet. Pretty fun, pretty cool, and it is weirdly kind of realistic in a sense, but it definitely has a hand-drawn quality. I did it. Yeah, I didn't. It's not even hand-drawn. I mean, I used the mouse. It's mouse-drawn. Wanted to reply to a viewer, Cav J, wrote, Brother Hank, any chance covering Mary Trump's book, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man? Thanks for quoting the book title in the proper form, Cav J, as is foretold in the AP style book, or whatever that's called. I've been aware of this. I remember seeing stories about it coming up, and I know Trump tried to sue to stop it, which probably brought more attention to it. But and I actually listened to a podcast, an interview with her, and she seems like a decent person. She was raised in a diverse world, like Brooklyn or something like that. Or I mean, meaning like she had a very different upbringing than Trump, so she's somewhat normal. It sounds normal. So it's like, I think what she says is trustworthy and everything. But I guess the only thing it's not that nothing's new or interesting or I mean, you know, there's some revelations, but when is there not going to be just another horrifying? But everything is like, yeah, obviously, of course he was like that. Of course, he skipped his brother's funeral or his father's funeral or whatever the fuck. Of course, he was a piece of shit throughout at every stage, and is like an innovator in being a monster. Of course, not to say that that's a reason not to do stuff, because I find that kind of annoying sometimes. Where people are like, "Yeah, why are you surprised? What are you shocked about?" Like this sarcastic take that you shouldn't be shocked. And it's just, I guess the only thing I have to say as far as covering it, it's not. I don't have the bandwidth to do a ton of stories. Like if I had like a media operation, probably do a story or something like that. Media operation. It's so ridiculous. But it just makes me think of the fire hose of nonsense that's just part of this being alive right now. If you pay attention to politics, especially, it's just this overwhelming torrent of madness and craziness and things that make you roll your eyes or make you take a big sigh or do both at the same time, or just wonder how the hell this is possible. How the hell can this guy have such a following? And of course, the more you learn about history, the more you kind of start to get a grasp on psychology and the way that the human systems of organization function. It all kind of seems like it's fitting into a familiar pattern in the world. The good Germans were not an aberration, and nor are the good Americans that we're stuck with. And America just happens to have institutional bias and power is weighted towards Trump's base. Rural voter, and it's not a knock on rural voters. Fuck, I want to get the fuck out of LA and become a rural voter. I can't say that word. Rural? Okay, see, I would do. Don't do that, Hank. But rural states have tremendous power. The Electoral College is weighted towards the the conservative right red states that to use a more modern what's the word, taxonomy for classifying groups. Red blue was never. It's not like that's been around forever. That was just like, I think that was like NBC News when in like either 84 or 88, like one of the Reagan elections or something, or H.W. Bush or whatever. But it's a relatively recent innovation. It's an over, and then at least we mix it to be purple, which is, I believe, what you get with red and blue, which is where purple lives on the color chart. In America, it should be like yellow, which comes from blue and green, I think. I'm not sure. My toilet is toilet colored. Okay, it's like a porcelain white color. I thought about making it a fun pink, maybe like a weird ugly brown. I saw a brown toilet once, and I was like, this is like Inception. It's amazing. Brown toilet. You'll never know if it's clean. Why don't they make the whole toilet out of pubes? So yeah, Mary Trump. Good for her. I hope she makes money off the book. I hope it influences, it moves the needle slightly to people but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't move anything. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Mary Trump. And any other presidency would probably be a much bigger deal if Obama had like a nephew that came out and was like, this fucking guy was a piece of shit. I wrote a book about it. Of course, the media apparatuses are incentivized differently based on who's in power. So anyway, John Lewis died. That was a sad time. I'm not going to get into the man's life, and he's been appropriately venerated and honored and a hero of America. But the thing that stood out to me is just these big funerals where the ex-presidents all get together. I think the last big one was John McCain, where I think that's where George Bush and Michelle Obama were canoodling and passing paraphernalia back and forth, candy or mints or something. And everybody jumped on Michelle Obama for being part of the George W. Bush Rehabilitation Project. And he's one of history's worst criminals, and he should die in prison of old age or of prison death or something. He's a horrible, evil, terrible person. But the rulers that be, they look out for each other. They're class-based. They look at each other, and they are pals. And I bet they have a nice time together. I bet they feel comfort, like I do when I'm around someone else who worked at a barn. You have barn stories. Remember that time? Wait, no, you worked at a different barn. But, when they had to paint the fence... But, so they have common cause with each other. And it's just disgusting. Anyway, so the John Lewis funeral, Bill Clinton got up and said some stupid shit. I wasn't even planning on talking about this. It's just, they're all just such scum, man. Anybody, all the ex-presidents, including Obama. Obama's the best one by far. Don't get me wrong, as far as like a man and a character of a person, and the kind of person we could use more of. But he's up there talking about fighting the good fight, and it's like, you've tortured Chelsea Manning, dude. You tortured somebody for telling the truth for years. I don't care that he commuted her. I'm glad he commuted her sentence, but that doesn't negate that he did it in the final weeks of his presidency. Might have been the final year at some point, but Chelsea Manning was tortured, and he could have stopped that. He was horrible against whistleblowers, and it was vicious. And so it's just, I judge presidents by who they hurt. Kind of the same principle I apply to capitalism. It's like, who does this hurt? Oh, a lot of people. Well, then that's not good. We punish people. We force individuals to pay lifelong prices in terms of jail or financial burdens for the smallest individual choices, or sometimes correctly for murderers and killers or rapists and people like that need to be put away. They deserve to be removed from society for whatever reasons, although I'm for rehabilitative models of punishment rather than punishment models. But presidents and politicians, these are by far the more dangerous than serial killers. Donald Trump has killed 160,000 Americans. Well, 156 right now. Anyway, yeah, so it's just, I just get frustrated that people get mesmerized by the speeches and by the contrasts. Like, Obama's better than Trump. We know that. Yes, of course. Doesn't make him such a special person. It's out of touch. Power makes you insane, or just it excludes you from reality, from lived experiences of the vast majority of people. All right, well, it's definitely not going to be a 45-minute episode. Okay, so let's jump ahead to... Oh, real quick, I'm going to cover more union stuff coming up. Since I was part of a union drive, I was one of the people who... I don't want to say led, and I don't want to take away the agency of anybody else who was involved, but I was sort of a driver of this organizing movement at the Young Turks when I was working there. And I got laid off in January before the union became public in February. And if you're paying attention to this world, you know there was a huge spat, which I'm going to break down a little more. Not right now, but I did an episode previously where I talked quite a bit about this union situation at TYT. And I have a bigger story to tell too. But I just, I realized, I was like, I've never brought it up again. And I didn't, even when they finally did have a recognition after having the second vote, the union, the first vote was the card check moment where the people in the union had a vote. They chose to unionize, and then they notified the company that they were now a union and demanded recognition. That was the vote. But the company wanted a second vote. And they did that. It took a long time because that's not what card check means, by the way. Like, Bernie Sanders is for if 50% of the people want to be in a union, and that's it. They have to be recognized. It's this way it's supposed to work. And it's the home of progressives. You would think TYT would support that as well. They didn't. They engaged in a bunch of union busting tactics. There's proof of it. There's articles written about it. Stuff I'm going to talk about in a later episode. But finally, they did have the vote, and TYT Union became a thing. So that's phase one, recognition achieved. Phase two is the negotiation phase, which is ongoing right now, and I don't know anything about, but it's complicated by the COVID thing, although it's not the most complicated thing to deal with. I'm sure that it's manageable, but the quarantine and working from home changes the math and all this stuff. So I just want to say, bravo, man. Good fucking job. Congratulations to TYT Union for finally reaching that. I know this is a few months back. And then they I always got to say, they fired someone. They fired Jacory, who's a guest on this show. There's an episode in the feed with me and Jacory. I was my first guest in a long time. I feel like I was a little overbearing. Well, shocker. But good guy, great guy. And then they fired him the day after Cenk lost his election. He was part of the union drive too. And they went and fired him. So Despite that, though, they prevailed, and good for them. And hopefully they're able to reach a contract that is fair and profitable. We want the company to do well. That was always part of the conversation. Even the very first meeting we ever had, that came up. It's not about hurting the company. It's about living. Okay. All right. So hopefully there's a satisfactory resolution later on. Here's the tweet announcing the unionization. We have voted again and have reaffirmed our decision to organize. We are pleased to announce that the Young Turks has officially recognized TYT Union. We are thrilled to now have a voice on the job at TYT. They didn't want them to have a voice. But that's not the way power works if there's enough people. That's why collective power is actually where the real strength resides. And the capitalist mission is to prevent collectives from forming, because that's actually where power is. It's just that it takes a lot of organizing. It's more complicated. So good for them. I'm glad to see it. More about that later. All right, the Dems, the saviors, led by Pelosi and Schumer, who are two of the strongest heroes you'll ever come across. Aren't we all lucky that they're on our side and not the side of evil? They're both super wealthy, from two of the most populous and wealthiest states in the country on opposite coasts, where there's the center of finance on one side, and then the center of big data companies, technology, you might say, and entertainment on the other side. Of course, with Obama and the other string pullers behind the scenes, they were able to get their boy Joe Biden, Papa Joe, into office, or at least hopefully. We all want him in. I mean, the Republicans are such nightmare freak monsters, just this like horde of ghouls that are hell bent on destroying the planet as fast as they can, just so that they can all go masturbate each other on their private yachts until it's over, until they'll have to scurry away into their survival bunkers. That's the process we're on. But we're going with slower suicide. We got fast. 2020 is a choice between fast suicide or slow suicide. Which form of death do you want? Do you want to die by gunshot wound to the head or by cancer wound to the head? Huh? Well, we're going with cancer wound to the head, hopefully, because that will actually reduce harm. And that's why I think you should vote for Biden. I'm going to vote for him because I am participating in my own destruction. But I feel like it's an obligation to those who don't have my privileges, because I do believe that the people Biden puts into office will have better interests for the world, even though they'll also be part of this corrupt system that he represents. And he's a relic of, a product and a relic of. It's so crazy that we're answering Trump with Biden. Like, it's so insane. I would prefer Klobuchar, or as I like to call her for my Pokemon fans, Charizard. What's wrong with me? So we're in the phase now where everybody's waiting for the VP pick. We don't know. Will it be Elizabeth Warren? Will it be Barbara Lee? Will it be Kamala Harris? I just leaning towards Elizabeth Warren because I think she'll become president if whoever the VP is. And of the choices, he's not going to pick me or Bernie Sanders or any of the socialist podcasters who I like and listen to. So the closest we can get right now, I think, is Elizabeth Warren. You could write tomes breaking down the problems with all of these people, but that's just where my leanings are. And I actually heard Sam Cedar, one of my heroes, not repeat what I said, but like say something similar the other day. And I was like, as Sam goes and Hank goes, it's good. We're going to do it. So anyway, right now what they're doing is setting up, there's these meetings, the DNC platform committee, and choosing, so that we're heading into convention season. The Republicans have been having all kinds of insanities with should Trump do it outside? Should he do it indoors? Everybody's going to die. Herman Cain, not to laugh, but he fucking went into a Trump speech and then it killed him. His conservatism killed him, which it's also killing lots of other people. So I guess that's a tradition in America, is the death by ignorance and conservatism. So rest in pizza, Herman Cain. But so it's insane. But part of this annual every 4-year process is choosing the Democratic platform, which is more or less a statement of what we're going to try to fight for. It's not necessarily that important. I don't think it doesn't. I wonder if there's been studies correlating, researching the correlations between a party's platform and then 4 to 8 years go by, and they do a study, say, oh well, they actually 10% of it became something, or they fought for this but they failed on it or something like that. So who knows? But it is an indicator of who is funding them and whose voices they're allowing at the table. So it's worth exploring. And two issues that have come up in recent weeks or so. There's been some voting on what to include in the platform or whatever, and they have voted against supporting marijuana legalization. I'm not going to spend a ton of time talking about this, but the platform does have or current statements or whatever have interest in decriminalization and such, but not full legalization, which is what we should do. Alcohol is legal and orders of magnitude more dangerous and unhealthy for society and for people than marijuana. I don't think that any drug is completely quote unquote safe, but of all the substances that are available, pot is the one that is highest on the list of safety, in my opinion, and it's insane that it is currently still listed alongside heroin and other things as a Schedule 1 drug. So full legalization should be the thing, and it's supported by more and more people over time. This is from the Pew Research Center. When they do Star Trek stories, they call it the Pew Pew Research Center. How can I not get a job in Hollywood, huh? So I'll just read the paragraphs here. 2/3 of Americans say the use of marijuana should be legal, reflecting a steady increase over the past decade, according to a new Pew Research Center survey. The share of U.S. adults who oppose... That is such a fucking stupid, hacky joke. I'm so embarrassed. The share of U.S. adults who oppose legalization has fallen from 52% in 2010 to 32% today. Propaganda worked really well against this stuff. The war on drugs has been one of the great crimes against humanity, the slow-burning crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, an overwhelming majority of U.S. adults, 91%, say marijuana should be legal either for medical and recreational use, 59%, or that it should be legal just for medical use, 32%. Fewer than 1 in 10, 8% prefer to keep marijuana illegal in all circumstances, according to the survey conducted September 3rd to 2/15 on Pew Research Center's American Trends panel. If you look at the chart, for those watching at home, or not without the video, it's just two lines that cross it over time from the left to the right. As you go to the right, the line where people don't like it crosses over the line where people do like it. Okay? Kind of like Steven Seagal's career. And it's the trends are very much in favor of legalization, and of course the Democratic Party is not in favor of it because they're bad at politics and bad at caring about people. But they're actually good at their jobs, which is to do what their billionaires pay them to do. It's disgusting. Real quick here, I don't know, it's more about the marijuana stuff than I want to talk about. But Democratic Party delegates is from Marijuana Moment, one of my favorite magazines. I get the iPad edition because it has animated emojis on it. No, I don't I've never heard of this. Democratic Party delegates reject marijuana legalization amendment to 2020 policy platform. Several delegates testified in favor of the proposal, arguing that legalization and ending the war on drugs will help resolve racial inequities and stimulate the economy. But following discussion of the measure, it was shot down in a 50 to 106 vote with 3 abstentions. The panel opted to keep the language included in a draft platform that was released last week. That document calls for decriminalizing cannabis possession, automatic expungements of prior marijuana convictions, federal rescheduling through executive action, legalizing medical cannabis, and allowing states to set their own laws. Like presumptive Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, it stops short of endorsing adult use legalization. Who would want an adult to make a decision about what to do with their body? That sounds radical, doesn't it? The language very closely echoes recommendations released earlier this month by Criminal Justice Reform Task Force that Biden and former primary rival Senator Bernie Sanders, IVT, organized. So yeah, it's bullshit. When we finally do legalize this stuff, and I know this will never happen because people are incapable of, well, very rarely does massive injustices be in any way rectified. They mostly just get swept into the dark, dusty corners of history at best. But there should be a tax on all marijuana profit, and it should go into a huge fund, and it should be a big and robust thing, and it should provide reparations to everybody who had to go to jail for selling, using any kind of marijuana. I mean, any kind of punishment for marijuana. It's insane that we have taken. I can just imagine it. Like if you're an alien watching Earth, if you're like a nature documentary kind of mindset, just watching one animal do a thing in its living room, and then a whole bunch of other ones come running in, grab it, put it in a cage for years, for decades. I saw a story. I don't have it in front of me, so the details are off. But a guy sold weed. I think it was in Michigan. A black guy, and he sold weed, and he's been in jail for 25 years for selling in the 90s. Do you think he's paid his price for that? How many? Why don't we put Mr. Anheuser-Busch in jail? John McCain's family, his wife Cynthia, actually comes from that family. The Busch brewery, the big beer company. Drug dealers. Legal drug dealers. I mean, alcohol hurts people. Alcohol also causes a lot of fun, too. There's no doubt about that. That's one thing that they don't report, to borrow a concept from Bill Hicks, who talked about how they don't report the good sides of drugs. But, I mean, I don't want to put people in jail for selling alcohol either, but it's insane that the amount of life and potential that has been wiped away because of this racist war on drugs is just insane. And that we're continuing it with Joe Biden is crazy to me. We cannot ignore the fact that the current marijuana criminalization policy has in too many cases been used to target people of color. Delegate Dennis Obdusky, who introduced the amendment, said they are unfairly and disproportionately 6 times more likely to be arrested than other citizens. The machinery of white supremacy strikes again, swoops into action to make sure that we whiteys don't ever have to deal with a world where we have to compete based on actual merit, but we get to just coast by on our delicious translucent skin color. I'm talking about the bug. That's a callback to the bug bite story from earlier. All right, so it's horrifying and shameful and disgusting. So vote Biden. But even more important, I would say, is the Medicare for all story that's going on. That is to say that we need it desperately. This quarantine, of all times, a pandemic, a mismanaged. I don't even know if that's correctly to say. They didn't. It's mismanaged. Almost makes it sound like they tried and they messed up. It's a deliberately exacerbated pandemic that's killing hundreds of thousands of people and causing incredible stress, not just for people who need healthcare, but for people who provide healthcare, all the workers, all the people that have to live in this world. And I mean, in the hospital system, the for-profit medical centers and hospitals and all that, and the ways that our lives are so horribly, everybody knows someone who's had a terrible experience with healthcare, if not themselves, of course. Even if you do have healthcare, it's a nightmare, meaning health insurance. So in a similar process, they voted against Medicare for all. 125 nays, 36 yays, or yeah, as it looks like. We have millions of unemployed. I'm showing a tweet here from Thea Ballerina on Twitter. People want health care, not health insurance. People need to be able to go to the doctor without stress, without knowing what it's going to cost. You have no idea what it's going to cost. I have some stuff I'd love to have looked at. I have a hearing problem, tinnitus. I've never had that checked out. I barely have ever had health insurance in my life. Even when I worked at the Young Turks. That's part of the bigger story that I'm going to tell you guys about someday. Fairly soon. Someday sounds like years from now. I'm not going to wait years is what I mean. I got other stuff that needs to be looked at. I got something, I think it's skin cancer on my nose that I've had for a few years. Would have loved to have had that checked out. Still haven't been able to. And I should. It seems to be slow growing. I'm not sure. But I don't know how much it's going to cost. I have no idea. I don't have money for that. I don't know. I should. But so what happens in America is you wait there's a whole culture here of dealing with it yourself, hoping it goes away, trying to treat it because you heard your mom's sister's friend had it and they said something, or some dumb shit on Facebook tells you some tips, or finding some articles, and there is good information in the world, but we kind of do it ourselves until the stress gets so over, or if it escalates to the point where the trade-off now tips into, okay, it's time to go to the emergency room and get some treatment of some kind. It's just such a cruel. Now that sounds like I can't say that word either. It's a cruel system. It's brutal. It is so violent. 50 to 60 to 70 something thousand people die every year from lack of health insurance. What is it about white culture that tolerates such violence? I was looking at the CEOs of those health insurance companies. Why aren't we going after them? Why are they so tolerant? Why are we whiteys tolerant of those whites causing all kinds of violence? Is it not? How many people died because United Healthcare has a profit motive? How many? Tens of thousands? I mean, I don't know how you split it up exactly between the health insurance companies, but these are mass murders. Oh, but no, they're making money. These are respectable people. No, it's capitalism's culture of tolerating violence, of extracting money and wealth and power from other people's lives. And in health insurance especially, they're preying on you when you're at your worst state. You have to navigate these bills and these nightmare policies. Have you ever seen the policies? Have you ever shopped for health insurance? It's a Byzantine labyrinth of boxes and numbers, and you got to pick the one that's best for you, and you got to figure out what that means. It's percentages. It's just all this craziness. There's people in the world, they're called non-Americans, who from the birth to death have never seen a health insurance bill. They might have seen some paperwork. Maybe, I touched my fan there. Listen. Great podcasting. It's a fan without a cage. It's actually got soft blades, and they spin. They're like little foam kind of fabric-y blades. And if you gesture wildly, you'll. It's like having a mosquito constantly flapping its wings in the room because you forget that the blades are there because you can't really see them. All right, whatever. Wow, what a great way to derail the story. People have lived their entire life without ever seeing a bill and gone to the doctor when they got sick. Gone to the doctor early. You catch stuff early, it's cheaper, and you have a much better chance of dealing with it. Can you imagine that? In America, that is an insane notion to think about. To have to need medical care, and you pay your taxes, and that's what you pay for, and you should be glad to pay. There's a great solution. Pay your taxes, tax the fuck out of the billionaires. It's all stolen wealth anyway. None of them are doing the work. They deserve some, but they don't deserve anywhere near what they get. And fund a robust, comprehensive social program. What's the point of living in a society? At some point, we stopped progressing. I mean, not to say that there's not still pushes for it, but when they made food labels, I think I've mentioned this before. There's a really fascinating, I believe it's a PBS or Nova documentary. It's called The Poison something. Damn. But it's about the scientists in the late 1800s who fought for accurate food labeling. And government finally conceded. Capitalists fought it for a long time. America was about 40 years past Europe was, and at that time, because it was sort of a global thing, or at least not just America. But government stepped in and made people's lives better. We should have the nutrition information, and it should be accurate. Who knows how accurate it is these days? But yes, nobody disagrees that we should know what's in a box of food when we buy it, which is a public service. The government imposes that, and we agree that it's good. So let's keep that process going, and that's what frustrates me too. It's like we could just make the world better on purpose. We could wake up and be like, oh, you know what? We could make it better. We have the power to improve people's lives, reduce working hours. Ultimately, we could reach a utopian sort of state. I know this is ridiculous and naive. But with medical care, they figured out how to make money on it. And of course, our system is designed to prevent change. So people just suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer. And there's a few people get some treatment. If you have some money, you get better treatment. Sometimes you have a job and you don't hate your health insurance. But the amount of stress that would be alleviated would be liberating. if we were to actually do a proper healthcare system in this country. And it connects to COVID too, because part of the American spirit is trained to not go to the doctor, not think of the government as being able to provide anything useful for you. So many people have been brainwashed to believe that it's always a problem, that there's no good it can do for anybody. Meanwhile, the invisible ways, like the nutrition labeling or like stop signs and stuff like that, and other ways, building codes, and other ways that government offers all sorts of positives to people, they go unnoticed. So that's exasperated the COVID issue, not just the profit taking that's going on, but the notion that Americans have very little cultural conditioning to handle this. There's so many comorbidities at play. I love hearing Americans, either, through media, interviews, podcasts, Twitter, blah, 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 where people either go to Europe or Canada or somewhere where it has universal health care and they need some treatment, and how stunned they are and how good it was, and that they didn't have to pay anything, or they only had to pay for parking, or it was $20, or that the prescriptions that cost several $100s in America are like $4 in other countries. No system's perfect. No doubt. No shit. Any human system's going to have some flaws, but Americans is by design set up so that your life is diminished, so that people who already have money can get more money. That's all it is. It's disgusting. But reading stories or reading accounts of people who experience other healthcare and then trying to, or those who live in those countries, remarking on how good it is versus comparing to what the torture that Americans go through. That's like my Kardashians. Like, that's how I live vicariously in the world. I see that and I just go, oh, I can just for a little bit of time feel like I'm a rich celeb in Beverly Hills with expensive dogs and cars. I think that's all. I think that's what those shows do. Most shows, really, honestly, it's kind of just a basic part of any entertainment, is that you experience it vicariously. And like those rich and famous sorts of shows, that's just a way to placate people into having that rich lifestyle without actually having any access to it. So then they can make a profitable advertising sale too. Anyway, it's so horrible. So one thing that, like, I was thinking about this. This is a thought I was having, and I'm just going to start talking, see where it goes. But if Joe Biden were to commit to Medicare for all, like, how does he not know that that's where the world needs to go, especially right now? How are the people around him, his advisors? I mean, I know how is that they're paid by billionaires and they're paid by the health insurance companies and lobbyists, and the Democratic machine is entrenched with corporatism and corporations. So, of course, that's like they're not going to go for something that's actually going to alleviate people of stress and simultaneously reduce corporate profits. So, duh. But this is where it's headed. It has to go here. It will be, as I've said, liberating. It'll be world-changing, like Social Security and the New Deal and the evolution of some of those over the years afterwards, because it didn't all happen at once. In the sense that those are foundational bricks of society now. Whenever they try to take them away, people go fucking crazy, even the conservatives. And I guarantee that'll happen again if a proper healthcare system is ever imposed. It would be detrimental to your boss, to corporations, to people with power, because you would have less stress to deal with and an easier time. And they might have to pay a little bit more in taxes. And I would be glad to pay more in taxes. What are you getting for it? What's the point of a society at all? But if Joe were to commit to it, if big old Papa Joe, swinging his chain around with his blonde hair that is so fun to rub, he told a story about how kids would rub his blonde hair when he was a lifeguard. That joke is grounded in historical reality. But let's say he did say, okay, you know what? I'm for Medicare for all. I'm going to push for it. First of all, it would increase the margin with which he would win because it's persuasive. And we need to also beat Trump by as big a margin as we possibly fucking can right now, because they are I'm hoping this is the last gasp of this conservative movement. I don't have any, like, I mean, I think it's naive to think it will be, but it would be politically a huge burst of energy for them and for them to get behind. And it would force Trump to highlight all the ways he's tried to damage healthcare and stuff like that. But instead, they're just pushing for, we're going to make Obamacare better. We're going to keep working on Obamacare and keep pushing on the ACA. But let's say he did commit. Then the left, people with my viewpoint, people, by the way, it's not just lefties, it's everybody. I mean, everybody would benefit from this. But the activists, the people who are trying and fighting and working on this will have to pull Joe. I mean, that's one of the things you hear when talking about, like, once Joe's in, he's definitely good to get Trump out, but then we can start pulling him to the left and pulling him. And then that is true. That's what you hope for, that you might have a little influence, because we know there's obviously no influence with the current people. So I'm positing that they know that. The people who work for Joe Biden aren't stupid, and they're in that world much more than I am. Well, I mean, it's even a ridiculous thing to put out there. But when he's in, we have to pull him on Medicare for all. But if he committed right now, we wouldn't have to pull him on it to the left, which would mean we would have bandwidth opened up to pull him on other issues, to drag him further on marijuana, on prison reform, on hopefully prison abolition. Don't get me wrong, Biden's not doing that. On other priorities. It's not going to be the capitalism destroying policies I would love to see, but by keeping it vague, and this might be the case. I mean, I think he's just doing his donor's bidding, and I think ideologically Joe Biden is incapable of even comprehending what a proper Medicare for all system would be. He's been a senator from Delaware for many, many decades, and that is a corporate tax haven. That is a corporate state. It is the American state that is the Cayman Islands, or the there's various tax havens all over the world. So he is, like, he's one of his nicknames is a senator from MDMA. MBNA, the bank or the credit card. I don't know. MDMA would be great, wouldn't it? The ego dissolving drug, or isn't that what Molly is? Anyway, do you get horny on Molly, or does it just feel good to be horny? Okay, I get it. See, it's been a while since I've been near any youth. So, but I think that there's a usefulness to not agreeing, even if they know eventually they might. They might be like, you know what? If we drag on the Medicare fight, it'll be 4 years. It'll take 3 years to get going, and then it's another 2 or 3 years of implementation. And it'll be this huge nightmare because Americans, none of this shit works. Like, the notion that we're supposed to change government slowly is very much in effect, but it's a horrifying process. It's not like the slightly useful notion that we don't want to necessarily just like change things on a dime at the first impulse. That's like breaking up with somebody the first time you think about it, which is crazy. You think about it for a while. It's got to be, can't just make that snap decision. So I'm not necessarily for that, although there's definitely time periods where massive changes in government are necessary and needed, and we might be in one of those right now. I think with Bernie coming into office, were he to get the nomination, it'd be much more of that, and it'd be a beautiful thing to watch. And the forces of propaganda that would have swooped into action to oppose him. It's kind of funny watching the right-wing, like, anti-Biden propaganda out there, because he's one of them. He's a vampire, just like they are. You know, it's like the they're still calling him a socialist and all this other shit, which is ridiculous. But because they can make us pull them on Medicare for all, even if they know it's inevitable, that uses up our RAM. It's a computer term for you, those of you that are cool. We're going to have to fight them on this, and that means we won't have the energy or the fuel to fight them and pull them on other stuff. So it's really useful for them. It slows down progress, because I believe that's what basically a president's job is. They're a steward of empire. Their job is to prevent progress and only allow it at a pace at which profit takers can adapt. We do have a little bit over time, slowly. It's a major step back with the Trumps, and they're going to sabotage everything they can on their way out the door. But Joe Biden will be a worse Obama. I mean, by a lot. And it's going to be extremely frustrating and disappointing, and they know that, and they're banking on it being exhausting, just getting something like Medicare for all, and it's a big deal to get that. But if the Democrats have a majority in the Senate and House and presidency, it's going to be real distressing, because they like to propose progressive policies when they have no ability to implement them. That's another thing that they love to do. It's so fucking frustrating. Speaking of that, this relates to the unfair, to say the least, the structural racism and inequality that's baked into the society. The melted sticker of a T-shirt maker. That's stupid. I just wanted to point this out. I came across this information about the coronavirus, and it is killing people of color at a much faster clip than it is killing white people. Largely because of because of all these institutional things, but especially because of access to medical care and access to quality medical care and quality nutrition and all other things. But so this is from the APM Research Lab. The color of coronavirus. COVID-19 deaths by race and ethnicity in the U.S. God, we're already at an hour or so, man. Jesus Christ. I got so much more to do. Okay, a chart here. Headline, Black and Indigenous Americans experience highest death tolls from COVID-19. So this is mortality rates per 100,000. And if you're watching this, you can see the lines. Black is the green line on top. It's far higher than any of the others. The lowest are white and Asian, but and Latino is above that. Pacific Islander and Indigenous are also climbing up, but Black is by far the highest one. Key findings. This is all data from July through July 21st, so it's a little bit old, but overall, actual American death rates from COVID-19 aggregated from all states within available data and the District of Columbia have reached new highs for all race groups, which means everybody's dying. 1 in 1,350 Black Americans has died. I'm not going to read all these numbers, but that's 73.7 deaths per 100,000. If we zoom ahead to the white population, it's 1 in 3,100. So it's a lot lower rate. 32.4 deaths per 100. 73.7 versus 32.4, more than double. And for Asians, it's 30.7. This information will probably change over time as we get more accurate information in, which, of course, the White House has shifted data flow from hospitals that used to go to the CDC. Now it's to them. So almost everything after that, it cannot be trusted whatsoever. It was already tenuous enough, but another slide here. Slide? What am I, an English teacher from the 90s? Black Americans continue to experience the highest overall actual COVID-19 mortality rates, about 2.3 times as high as the rate for whites and Asians, who have the lowest rates. Someone quoted here, I don't know the name, but if they had died of COVID-19, or it's just a quote from the article, if they had died of COVID-19 at the same actual rate as whites, about 17,000 Black, 3,000 Latino, 500 Indigenous, and 50 Pacific Islander Americans would still be alive. So over 20,000 people are dead because of this racial disparities within this system. Wow, what white supremacy? I don't know what you're talking about. It's so horrifying. So I got a lot to get through, guys, so I'm just going to push on, though. It's so sad, though. It's such a frustrating thing. All right, this is progressive paladin Amy Goodman on Democracy Now! More like Democracy When, am I right? Doing a report with Juan Gonzalez about the COVID testing in America. Oops, I bumped my microphone there. About the COVID testing in America and about Jared Kushner's role. You know, the slumlord fuckhead who is the president's son-in-law? He's in charge of a lot of this. How is that? Okay, let's just listen to Amy Goodman, and we can all feel our blood pressure go down.
Well, as the national coronavirus death toll surpasses 156,000, the highest by far in the world, the U.S. making up more than a quarter of global deaths, on Monday, President Trump attacked top White House coronavirus advisor Dr. Deborah Birx for saying that the U.S. is in a new phase as the virus spreads out of control.
Get her, daddy. Get that woman. Get that science woman. By the way, I think she's like one of these like Christian like nut jobs that like Dr. Redfield, the head of the CDC. Like they have this whole agenda that's behind the thing, and she, because she's gone on and done this like dear leader praising bullshit about Trump. So I don't like this person at all. But she did mess up and say something that was against the Trump orthodoxy. So here he is. He went after his own people. These fucking monsters, man. Okay, let's keep going.
What we're seeing today is different from March and April. It is extraordinarily widespread. It's into the rural as equal urban areas. And to everybody who lives in a rural area, you are not immune or protected from this virus.
Nobody knew in the beginning that this would spread. What we're seeing today, as if like they had nothing to do with this happening. That there was no warning. They were told about this like in November, the very earliest indications, I think. If it was this, but there were early signs that there was something potentially looming. Not to mention they had gotten rid of the pandemic office 2 years ago. Oh, I hate it.
President Trump responded Monday, tweeting, "So crazy Nancy Pelosi said horrible things about Dr. Deborah Birx, going after her because she was too positive on the very good job we're doing on combating the China virus, including vaccines and therapeutics. In order to counter Nancy, Deborah took the bait and hit us. Pathetic," he said. Dr. Anthony Fauci defended Dr. Birx, saying community spread is...
Fauci's wearing a mask, walking nice and strong. Yeah, so Trump used that. He also couches it in the Pelosi caused Birx to take the bait, which is basically his way of saying this is your one chance. If you get on board, you can keep your job.
Is insidious. Despite this, Trump told Axios' Jonathan Swan the coronavirus is under control.
Yeah, it's under control. My fucking ass it is. So the more important part, I think, is this story, which I believe was Vanity Fair. I don't have headlines or whatever, but we're going to listen to the brave Amy Goodman talk about it a little bit with an author who I think she wrote. She's an author, but I think she wrote the article. But Jared Kushner, the golden child, eats rolled oats every morning. I mean, has there ever been a more dislikable person? Well, yeah, there's been quite a lot of more dislikable persons than this fuckhead Jared Kushner. I hate these people so much. But okay, let's let Amy do the talking.
In an explosive piece headlined "How Jared Kushner's Secret Testing Plan Went Poof into Thin Air," reporter Catherine Eban writes Jared Kushner was pursuing a national testing plan with the help of a handful of wealthy business owners when the White House decided...
The help. You know, he needed help. The guy doesn't know what he's doing, but luckily there were some wealthy business owners around. "Oh, aren't you guys nice? Yes, I would like some help crossing the street. Oh, thank you, young man." And then you get a bill for, like, I should go help old women and men cross the street, and then I should send them a bill for several $1,000s and put them in debt. Maybe I can make him work as a housekeeper at my resort. Fucking. So this was a scam. This was these monsters colluding to never miss an opportunity. Their capitalism knives were out, and they were looking for just a few extra buckets of human fat tissue that they could then use to make candles for the palace of nightmares, where they all crawl into a crate of disgusting dirt. I watched What We Do in the Shadows on Hulu, everybody. Fucking great show, by the way. Just a random plug for a great show, What We Do in the Shadows. Give it a look. Let's keep going.
It was not necessary because COVID-19 had, quote, hit blue states hardest. Eban writes, quote, "This summer has illustrated in devastating detail the human and economic cost of not launching a system of national testing, which most every other industrialized nation has done." Eban writes. She joins us now from Truro, Massachusetts. She's author of Bottle of Lies, the inside story of the generic drug boom.
Hell yeah, generic drug boom, baby. So the big takeaway, we're gonna listen to this author who wrote the article, Catherine Eban. This looks like she misspelled bean. They chose to let people in blue states die. They deliberately knew, or should have known, that a failure to respond correctly, as other countries were doing, maybe slightly imperfectly, would kill people. But because it would kill people in blue states, and then they could use that as a cudgel to hit blue state governors, Gavin Newsom, Cuomo. I can't believe people in New York put up with that Cuomo guy. So, he is such a scumbag. It's insane. He just sorry, this is a super random aside, but I remember there was some stories out in the last few days about he said he was talking to billionaires in the Hamptons. That's why we can't raise taxes, meaning that if we were to raise taxes and to tax billionaires, the people in the Hamptons might not come back to New York. Do you have any idea what that would do to the city? If we deprived billionaires of money that they'll never, ever, ever, ever use, they would deprive us of what? Their pedophile rings and rape circles that they're able to, like, what are you protecting? Why do we have these people? What's the fucking point? They're just in charge, and they've trained enough of us not to be able to recognize that they're the ones who deserve to have the guillotine, the Aussie guillotines. That's a Chicago White Sox sports joke. It's a sports podcast, by the way, guys, in case you didn't know. Sports podcast. Okay, let's see this interview. I actually haven't watched this entire bit. It's pretty long, so I'll be pausing, I'm sure, and breaking in on it. But let's just let you go. I need to take a sip of my coffee.
Can you lay out what you learned about why we are at this point in this country where people around the country are waiting hours and hours and hours for their tests, and then they wait days, if not weeks, for the results, rendering them virtually ineffective? Go back to what this White House was doing in the early months.
So starting in March, it was very clear to every public health expert that we needed a nationally organized diagnostic testing plan, one that could surge supplies, allocate test kits, allocate precious laboratory capacity. And Jared Kushner, inside the White House, gathered a group of his associates, including his college roommate.
I don't have details right now, but I've seen stuff about, he's got like his buddies, his jagoff pals, his country club ball suckers sitting there with him in the White House. What kind of country is this? What kind of fucking society do we have where this is okay and permissible? The son-in-law? It would be bad if he were qualified to have any of these positions and have any influence over public policy. It would be bad. Horrible. He has nothing. He's a failed real estate scumbag. Just a scion of privilege, a child of wealth, whose father had to buy him into Harvard for $2.5 million. And also there's some reports, or not reports, there's a story in his family where I think his dad's in jail for setting up to a blackmail of his brother using prostitutes or so. I'm sure I'm fudging that a bit, but it's like bizarre. It'd be like a bad TV movie or something, but it's these people. The kind of guy the daughter of Donald Trump would be attracted to. God, okay. That's one reason why this podcast is hard on me, because I'm not as if that's like my problem in life, but like I get so worked up and it takes it out of me. I'm so exhausted when this is over, and I got a bunch of editing to do. Okay, let's keep it going.
Some Morgan Stanley bankers.
Oh, thank God. Oh, because when I think of deadly pandemic and its early stages, I think, you know what? We better hurry up and get these Morgan Stanley bankers involved. We can't solve this without a bunch of psychopaths.
A sort of brain trust. They began reaching out to billionaires who did not have public health experience per se, but then they brought in a group of diagnostic testing experts from the industry. working night and day in secret on the encrypted WhatsApp platform. They hammered out.
By the way, she means Jared Kushner was communicating with these people on WhatsApp, and it's encrypted, and that's highly illegal, I believe. Meaning, I'm not sure if it's a specific statute, but it is extremely bad for a government official, who is Jared Kushner, employee of the White House, to use encrypted secret communication means. It's all supposed to get recorded through government channels. There's supposed to be notes. There's supposed to be all sorts. It's supposed to happen, maybe not in the public eye, but there's supposed to be records of everything. And these are there, and that was a major part of what they. Sorry, I mean, a little cold brew. Yeah, boy, it's fighting back. That was a major part of what they went after Hillary for. The email server, that she would potentially be endangering troops and endangering Americans because she had a server that wasn't in the proper government facility or something. Obviously, no duh. The hypocrisy is crazy, and conservative people, conservative voters have never ever cared about that. And to some degree, we probably all are a little bit more tolerant of hypocrisy than we should be. I think you can't be perfect. I know, honestly, I really think that you're shackling yourself if you expect perfection, if you hold yourself to that standard and try to hold others to that standard. That's a side point. But he's not supposed to be using WhatsApp for official government business, particularly when you're talking about the lives of millions of people here. This is probably, I'm guessing this will at least kill 500,000. I bet that's a low estimate. Even with Biden in, and Biden wins, it's still going to be 3 months before he becomes president. And then there's also a ramping up phase. It's unbelievable.
A national testing plan that essentially resembled what every other advanced nation has established. And the participants in the plan, and we obtained the plan, I should say, the participants expected that at any moment in early April, the plan would be announced. It vanished into thin air, as one participant described it.
So the evil cadre of Kushner, his roommate, or his roommate, I guess Ivanka's, okay, his college buddy, I think the guy's paid like over $100,000 for this role. I remember reading about it a couple of years ago. But Morgan Stanley bankers, industry tester people, forming a secret thing, and they didn't even do that. They didn't even have that. So they were just figuring out how they could best capitalize on the looming pandemic and the amount of fear and control, because fear means control. People are afraid. They make more rational decisions, but they're susceptible to being manipulated even more. So that, like, this is a market opportunity. Oh, look, a market has sprung up. We're going to be able to sell a lot of stuff here, and we're not going to let this opportunity pass us by. We're not going to make decisions that might be even a profit loser or might cost the government something that doesn't make a rich person who doesn't need more money have a little bit more money. No, we're going to make sure that we get ours. We're going to make sure that every single person who gets the virus, who is afraid of the virus, who has to work on the virus, who has to go to work and deal with the virus, we're going to make sure that a little bit of their life energy, we're just going to suck right out of them in the form of the money that we get to keep from this process, by making it confusing, by making it by withholding supplies for political means. And that's what they did, by the way. I haven't even seen what else she talks about in this piece here, but they were intercepting shipments of PPE, personal protective equipment. They were intercepting it. The federal government, this gangster behavior of just grabbing a truck like a mafia movie, and it's not much. It's really accurate. All right, let's keep going.
Why?
The metaphor is that's some similarity to mafia. Okay, let me rewind just a touch.
Oh,
all right.
Why? And what was the reason?
So the plan.
Why did they not do the plan? Is the question. Trying to remind people who might have forgotten, because I go off on my ramble tangents.
Plan at that moment hit shifting sentiment at the White House. The view at that point in early April, in part led by predictions by Dr. Deborah Birx, is that the virus was on its way out. It was subsiding. There was a view that a national testing plan would be an enormous effort with a lot of political liability. But there was an additional calculation, which was expressed from one member of Kushner's team to someone that we interviewed, which is that this was mostly affecting blue states. And if a political argument was needed, they could simply blame those Democratic governors for the spread.
It would be beneficial to the boss's political ambitions. During Iraq, something that came up, and it's kind of absurd. I should say this part after I explain. I'm going to do that. Karl Rove, popularized on the television program, the Stephen Colbert program, who would dress him up as a ham with glasses. This what was his name? Turd monkey. There was a word for him. There was some term that got attached to him. Turd shit face or something like that. Just a complete swamp creature. Just one of those fetid. Canned meat is the right metaphor. Rotten canned meat. Anyway, Karl Rove is a total scumbag, but he was Bush's political guy, like a Steve Bannon of today, and he still has influence within the Republican clergy. And one of the things that was criticized and brought out during the Iraq War, and after, and all the aftermath of it, was that Karl Rove was involved in some of those decisions. That he would even be in the room. So it was spoken about as if it was bad to have an inappropriate and against norms to have the political guy in the room where they're doing operational planning and policy planning. So because policy and politics are supposed to be separate. One's like the recruiter for the sports team, and the other one is like the peanuts selling person. I don't know. That's not, but they're not supposed to be involved. Well, the one gets you into office, and the policy is then what you do after that. But that's never been the case. I mean, of course, politics is always that role, and it's in sort of a storybook kindergarten kind of way. That's okay. Yeah, you know what? You pay a price if you have bad policy, is that you will suffer in your politics. That's the accountability that we think that democracy is ostensibly supposed to be providing and offering the people. In our country, it's hardly accurate. America's democracy does not reflect what the people want. So during the Iraq situation, I mean, Karl Rove's presence was repulsive, or at least especially to those of us who thought the entire thing was horrifying and repulsive. But these days, and I'm sure this happens within Democratic administrations, as I've said, like of course politics is always on the mind of these politicians. It's built into the way it works. But in this case, this is a pandemic. This is deaths of Americans. And by the way, blue states, it's not like they're 100%, but as if that would be okay anyway. But they're killing a lot of Republicans, a lot of older folks. Fox News' average viewer is like 150 years old. The Crypt Keeper would be like their grandkids. It's utterly maddening that these people are going to, hopefully they'll be out of there in a few months, or in 6 months or so, in January. And Papa Joe takes over. But they're going to go on to media careers and being thorns in the side and just being part of this Sauron's army of monsters spreading this rampant extremist conservatism that is just destroying the society, advancing the causes of white supremacy, grasping onto those hopefully fading levers of power that white supremacy offers them and me and everybody who benefits from this system. It's obviously very vast and large and complicated, and there's lots of nuances, but they're not going to pay any price. They're going to sell books. They're going to sell TV, they're going to sell merch. It's so insane. I just hate that. This is one of the worst crimes against humanity. We're living through it. You can't hug your parents. You can't see your family. You can't go dating. You can't live your life. Think about the theft of your time and your precious, and like, because like philosophically, my notion of existence is like life is very rare. You get this little spark of existence that's part of this incredibly beautiful process of starting at the Big Bang till now. Now you're here, I'm here, you're listening to me. This is all of our spark. Thanks for spending a little bit of time of yours with my voice right now. Thank you. Please spend more. Like and subscribe, fuckface. So philosophically, like the most precious thing that should rise to religious fervor is time. That you get this tiny little bit of, you're just like, I always imagine like a huge cloud, like a sci-fi movie, like just an endless ceiling of gray, the bottom of a cloud, and your life is just a little spark that drops out of it. And there's a few other sparks nearby, and you have a little cluster of sparks, and that's the people you knew, and you're one of them. I mean, you're someone they knew, and then you're gone. And you might linger on in the memories of the sparks that come after you, but that's it. It's a snap of the fingers and it's over. And these fucking ghouls are stealing it from you. Even if you don't know anybody who's died, even if you don't know anybody who's suffered from this virus, and even to the degree that you have to absorb the anxieties and the pain of a society that is living with such uncertainty and destabilization and stress. It's all about it all kind of just comes down to like the fear of death is stress enough, and we should build a world where that and like heartache from like failed relation, you know. I mean, like there's plenty of pain in the best life for us to still have enough pain to appreciate the good. I really kind of hate that notion that, gotta have the dark in order to have the good, don't you? It's always dark in the light. Like, yeah, I know. I don't think that's irrational, but there's plenty of pain built into the best circumstances. And that's what we should be reaching for. Okay? Vote for Jim Gaffigan. That's why he's running for Senate. All right, keep going here.
And so the national testing plan was abandoned. And on April 27th, Trump stepped to the podium in the Rose Garden and announced the administration plan, which bore no resemblance to the one hammered out by the group. And this was a plan that essentially kicked the problem to the states. The states would individually be responsible for getting test kits, getting lab capacity, and that really has led to what we have seen over this terrible summer.
Like, of all the disasters, every disaster is basically just a logistics challenge. Hurricanes and earthquakes. I mean, it all just becomes like, how do we get resources to where they need to be in order to help people in the ideal set of operating conditions? And a pandemic is it's like the slowest motion of disasters. But that also means you have some time to prepare. You can trust science, gather information, learn from other countries, gain from their losses, meaning like that's what you learn from someone else's mistakes, right? That's part of the human community. That's one of the beautiful things about humanity is that specific thing. And these people are incapable of doing any of that. Their only incentivized is to make as much for themselves and their cronies as possible. But you need competence, and you need an ideologies behind that competence to make decisions not based on this kind of stuff. And it's just, I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's flummoxing that it's not illegal, or that somehow they won't pay any kind of legal price for this. Okay. Maybe there'll be a day where in the few years from now, I think this is true for Donald Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney still alive? Is he all robot yet? That motherfucker? I hope in heaven they don't have any charging stations for pacemakers. As if he's going to get into heaven. I mean, come on. Everybody knows he's going to Valhalla. What the hell is he talking about? Fuck. God damn it. I did it again. Oh, I got it. Hopefully that, as I think is for Donald Trump, okay, that some nations have said that they will arrest them if they come there. I don't know if that's the case for those guys, but like maybe that'll happen where Trump can't travel around the world. That might be the most thing, but it's just so crazy, man. It's just so insane. Let's finish this. There's not that much more for this part.
Miles long lines of cars in Texas and Arizona heat waiting online to get tests, people waiting 7+ days to get results, which essentially renders the tests useless.
I've heard people saying it's taken over 14, like half a month to get a test result, which it's literally nothing then. At that point, you don't. As soon as you get a test, the clock starts ticking on to as its efficacy starts wearing out really quickly.
And that's where we are. You know, we cannot monitor where this virus is at point because we don't have enough testing. You cannot fight what you don't see. And that is the predicament we are currently in.
Unbelievable. Just a crazy nightmare. We don't have enough testing, which will be relevant to the next video we're going to play. So this is Trump on Axios here on Tuesday, August 4th. I think this aired Monday or something, August 3rd. There's been clips of this kind of being teased because you can't do an interview unless you make money off of it. Meaning the ratings got to be high. And this is appropriately getting substantial ratings as Trump being himself. But he's not used to being challenged, so I think it escalates the way. I can only imagine that with his staff, it's just a bunch of people just going, "Oh, yes, sir." You know, you could just imagine. Don't you love to see the subtitles of someone's brain standing in a room with him? I mean, you're more likely an evil monster yourself if you're willingly working for this guy. But there's a lot of people in government that don't necessarily meet that, and they have to deal with him. Fauci seems like one of those. So, yeah, that's right. Fauci and I are on a last name basis. You haven't heard him talking about Thompson? Well, maybe you should pay a little more attention to the news. But anyway, this one is a few minutes long. I imagine all this stuff's going to mess up my copyrights on YouTube. But so here he is trying to explain away why the U.S. is doing a great job. Of course, it's all muddled and confusing. And the facial expressions of, I don't know, I forget the guy's name, the reporter. I think he's Australian or New Zealander or something like that. He's a Crocodile Dundee. And he does a good job pushing back and asking questions. I mean, this must be like kind of like the journalistic equivalent of bull riding in a sense. High profile, high pressure. Anytime you interview a president, I'd say, let alone this monster. So let's just hit play, and you will now. Some of you might have already heard some of this too, but I'll break in and we'll talk about it. Oh fuck! Wrong button. Come on, Premiere.
Take a look at some of these charts.
I'd love to.
We're going to look.
Let's look.
And if you look at death,
Yeah. Started to go up
here's
again.
one. Well, right here.
So this is this crazy setup though, where it's just directly across from each other, and Trump is kind of this lean forward, strange body shape, bizarre centaur. Like, I think the best I've heard him described is like the front half of a centaur. Which I like. This is, see, evidenced by my laughter. But Trump has got a sheet of paper. They're in a fancy oval office-y kind of room. White Housey government sort of thing. They love those wainscoting. Is that what that is? That white paneling that's like the lower half of the wall. And Trump has his papers, and he's making the case. And the guy's okay.
The United States is lowest in.
All right, so I'm just pausing. He's got this chart, and it's sort of like a big kind of like upper lines. You know, that's what he's looking at.
Numerous categories. We're lower than the world.
The world? The world is worse than us. We are not the world.
Lower than
We're
the
lower
world.
than.
Like, he's confused. He's like, lower than the world. There's I don't have the picture of it, but like there is a thing that shows the United States, like a blue bar graph. There's like just 4 big bars, and one of them is the world, or world, right above the United States.
What is that?
Europe.
In what?
Look.
In what?
Take a look.
So important audio here, where it's Jonathan Stetter. That's not the CNN guy, Brian Stelter or whatever. It's Jonathan something. Anyway, he's about to say something in explaining this, which I found a little confusing. Not what he said, but I just had a little hard time wrapping my head around the distinctions here. But I'll try to explain it. I do think I have a grasp on it after reading up and trying to get a grip on it. So, but listen to what the guy says after looking at that piece of paper that Trump just handed to him.
Right here. Here's case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population.
Okay, proportion of cases versus proportion of population. All right, that's what he pointed out. We'll go a little further and we'll kind of talk about that. I hope this makes sense, honestly. I have no idea what I'm doing with this podcast, as you could probably tell, but let's hope this works out.
That's where the US is really bad.
Well,
Much worse than South Korea, Germany, etc.
you can't do that. You have
Why
to
can't I
go,
do that?
You have to go by. You have to go by what makes me look good. Another raw chicken, please. Go by where? Look, here is the United States. You have to go by the cases. The cases.
Why
are
not
there.
as a proportion of
when
population?
We have somebody. What it says is when you have somebody that where there's a case.
Oh, okay.
The people that live from those cases.
It's surely a relevant statistic to say if the US has X population and X percentage of death of that population versus
you
South
have to
Korea.
go by the cases.
Well, look at South Korea, for example. 51 million population, 300 deaths. It's like, it's crazy compared to...
Yeah, so 300 out of 51 million. America is about, what, 330, 340, our population? Let's just say 350. So 50 to, fuck math, goddamn. 7 times more. So if proportionally by death, you'd have 300 out of 50 million. Let's do the math times 7 to bring it up to America. That brings us to 350 million. You'd also multiply 3 times 7, 300 times 7. That'd be 2,100. So if America and if America and South Korea had a similar response, our death rate should be about, or our number of dead should be about 2,100. 2/3 of what of people who died in the World Trade Towers. We're at 157,000. Roughly 80 times what it should be if we were the same as South Korea. And they've been extremely competent in this response. And they've had little flare-ups. I mean, that's normal. Oh, it's going back up in South Korea. They had an outbreak of 60. We have like 50, 60,000 new cases a day. So that's a way you can compare. And Trump is insisting that you measure by cases. So everyone you test, and I think what he's trying to say that the reason you can't use cases as a proportion is because different countries test different numbers of people, especially if they get it under control. Their testing goes down after you get it under control. You still have monitoring and temperature checks and testing, but then you have a much higher capacity. Like you're well under your capacity. In America, our testing is expensive and difficult to access, and it's administered state by state. And I was talking to my brother, as I always make sure to point out, is a scientist. He's a professor of neuroscience, and he was telling me that he's paying pretty close attention to this stuff and works in the education field, and is a scientist, saying that there was a whole run of testing, and I don't even think this is the CDC fuck-ups that were in February, but that there is like a chemical. There's starting to be shortages of there's like certain components of the testing that are not that easy to source. They have to be made. Like, they're just not some simple chemicals. So like there's all sorts of ways that the supply chain is starting to be challenged and stuff. And America has done lots of testing. We have lots of people. Is it enough testing is what matters, not is it a lot or a little. But Trump is insisting that, and I think what he's getting at is that people who get it don't know it, inflate the numbers. I think that's what he's saying, is like we are detecting it in people who don't become a case, or they don't get it, meaning they have it but it's not, leaving out the very incontrovertible truth that if you can still spread it whether you have symptoms or not. I think that's what he kind of thinks the point is he's making. But it's a way to manipulate statistics in a way that makes sense to him. And of course, they have these huge bar graphs and giant charts which was also part of the early months of the Trump administration when he wouldn't read any of his daily briefings. I don't think he still does, but that they had to simplify his security briefings to one page, and they had to make it about him because that's what he would pay attention to, and they had to use big pictures and charts. It's like the dumbest kid. It's like, oh, he's like a toddler. He's like a stupid toddler. You ever meet a toddler? They can be pretty intelligent. They could be fucking nightmares too. Okay, let's keep going.
I do. It's on.
don't know that.
You think they're faking their statistics? South Korea,
I
an
won't
advanced
get into
country.
that because they have a very good relationship
Yeah.
with the country. But you don't know that. And they have spikes. Look, here's
Germany
one.
low,
Here's
9,000.
one. Here's one right here. United States. You take
Anyway.
the number of cases.
Okay.
Now look, we're last, meaning we're first.
Last. I don't know
We
what
have
we're
the
first
best.
in.
We're last. We're last. Meaning we're first. The best. If that doesn't sum up Trump, that is, we're last on the bottom of the pile of bar chart that is. See the picture right there? If you're looking at YouTube, it's a full sheet of paper with 4 big colored bars: pink, brownish, orange, burnt sienna, you might say, and a slightly desaturated blue. I've been drawing toilets, guys, so okay, I kind of know what I'm doing with the colors. All right,
Surfer, meaning salad.
playing again now.
Now look, we're last, meaning we're first.
Last. I don't know.
We're last, which means we're first.
We
what
have
we're
the
first
best.
in. As a what?
Take a look.
Okay.
Again, it's
I just-
cases.
Okay.
And we have
His disgusting head, this big fucking Star Trekian frog face of this piece of shit is, with his gullet hanging over. Does he have the teeth of his victims floating around in his gizzard, which he uses to process the double-decker tacos that he eats? Look at this guy with his makeup. What a man! Combs his sideburns backwards. This is so disgusting.
cases.
Conservative men look at this guy and go, that's a guy. That's my man. Ooh, look at him. He's a racist, bully, rapist. Just like I didn't. He doesn't have to take shit from anybody. The minorities know where they belong. That's the okay. All right. Okay. Masculinity is an interesting topic to me. I think there's some. Okay. All right. Let's keep going.
Because of the testing. Wait,
1,000 Americans are dying a day, but I understand on cases it's different.
no, but you're not reporting it correctly, John.
Oh, they're not reporting it correctly, and he's not telling the world the lies that Trump wants them to tell. The manipulated information.
Jonathan,
I think I am, but
if you take
By the way, the face he makes. I know this is an audio show. Oh fuck! Hold on. I'll go frame by
correctly,
frame.
Jonathan.
There it is. Sorry, this is bad. This is bad audio. But this Jonathan guy makes this facial expression like, what? Like if someone orgasmed at a funeral. Like, oh. Actually, no, that'd be more disgust. This is just like, are you kidding me? Are you fucking serious?
Then,
I think I am, but
if you take a look at this other chart, look, this is our testing, I believe. This is the testing, yeah.
yeah, we do more tests.
No, wait a minute. Well, don't we get credit for that? And
So, don't we get credit for more tests? One of the things Trump has been saying for months, and astonishingly, you'd think they wouldn't say this, or maybe a month or so, but he said it at some event, that the problem here is that we have so many tests, and if you do fewer tests, you'd have fewer cases. Like, yeah, you would, if you measure less, you would detect less, but it has nothing to do with how the virus functions, or the whole reason you test is so you have better information, because you need to use the logistics management I was kind of talking about earlier, that you need to apply resources and responses correctly, and you can only, in the better information you have, the better response you can then offer. But he just said he wants credit for more tests, because of course none of this means anything to him. It's just a matter of in the moment what makes the most sense for him to say. But it also has a side effect, or the kind of more nefarious undertow of chaos, of confusion. He doesn't have to meet a standard of competency or consistency or lack of hypocrisy. He can be all over the place, and that serves his purposes. Check out the movie Hypernormalization by Adam Curtis. It gets into that quite a bit. I think honestly, I've seen it once. It's a big watch. But the confusion and the lack of predictability and the lack of consistency. Now he's not sitting there thinking like, I'll be inconsistent. That'll serve me because it'll keep people on their toes, and they'll just be exhausted eventually. That they'll just give up and take whatever me and my corporate benefactors offer them. That's not what he's thinking. He that's why he's such a fit for this terrifying way of operating, where they just keep you so unbalanced emotionally, financially, literally physically. Well, I don't know. Are people walking around falling down? But that it's a way of reinforcing the oppression, I guess, by that they don't even have to work to do, by just being shitty, just having a big mess, Like if your kid, it's like having a child, like you left your kids alone for a while and they went nuts, and they just started like writing on the walls, and they broke a thing, and they got into the porno mags, and they glued your dildo to the ceiling fan, which means they got out a ladder, and the glue, which means they got glue on their hands, and then one of them is stuck to the ladder, and there's ketchup all over the wall. So it was one time when I was a kid, my brother for some reason decided to just start smashing the bottle. It's a plastic bottle, the bottle of ketchup against the table. I just kept smashing it, and eventually ketchup started going everywhere. And I think, this is one of those messy outbursts of it. But it's like having that as a political philosophy. You have no idea which mess to start worrying about first. I would say, get the dildo off the ceiling fan. It's going to destabilize it. Those things need to be in balance for them to work properly. Or glue 4 more dildos to the other ceiling fan blades. Okay? Let's keep going.
Because we do more tests, we have more cases. In other words, we test more. Now take a look. The top one, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. The top, Jonathan.
If hospital rates were going down and deaths were going down, I'd say terrific.
So yeah, he's holding a chart that has America unique among the other lines, where the line is traveling upwards, saying that this is us doing lots of testing. And then Jonathan Swan, that's it, right? Jonathan Swain or something like that. Dr. Axios here says, yeah, if more testing, and then you also had decreasing deaths and decreasing hospitalizations, that means that we're getting a grip on it, or at least it's trending in the right direction. But that's not what's happening. And the information's gone to the White House, not the CDC now, as I said before, and that means that you can have even less trust in the accuracy of it, because they're highly incentivized to manipulate the information and restrict it and delete it and change it.
You deserve to be praised for testing, but they're all going up.
They very rarely talk.
60,000 Americans are in hospital.
If you watch the news or read the papers, they usually talk about new cases, new cases, new cases.
I'm talking about death.
Well, you look at death.
Up.
Death is way down from where it was.
It's 1,000 a day. It was 2,500. It went down to 500. Now it's going up again.
Excuse me. Where it was is much higher than where it is right now.
It went down and it went up again.
But now it's going down again. It's going down in Arizona. It's going down in Florida.
Nationally,
it's going down in Texas.
I don't know if any of that's true. Don't believe it. It's part of the way this guy works. He's got these con man powers. It is wizardry. It is a kind of weird... He is a Gandalf-level con man. He does have this thing that you give... And so many other reasons, I'm sure. It's probably a complex psychological thing, not just his own psychology, but the way we receive it. That's a big part of the way people don't necessarily think about how the world works. Is the reception of information is key to the delivery of information. But yeah, he's got these powers, and I think part of what makes his lies so powerful is it's way beyond the George Costanza thing of if you believe it, it's not a lie. I think there's something there that is like there's simply, I don't know. I heard someone describe this kind of in a way that like, it's not like he's rejecting other realities and then choosing one to offer you. He is just I'm not still quoting whatever that was I was talking about. But it's like those train cartoons where they're like putting the tracks right in front of the train as it's going. It's like he's just creating this forward shield of whatever reality he needs to tell you is true. And the world is bending to that. The United States military is bending to that. The conservative movement, not that there were some stalwarts of consistency. In fact, they're the nutrient swamp that gave birth to this fuckface. He's one of them. He's one of the Lincoln Project. He's definitely a symbol of conservatism, as if we could like if you were to reduce all of conservatism down to one person, it would be Donald Trump. It would be this type of crazy denialism, this crazy narcissism, this overwhelming selfishness, inability to have empathy for anything. But there's like this perpetual machine that is generating this reality bubble right in front of him. This guy shouldn't be trusted to run a microwave, let alone a country. He's in charge of our nuclear arsenal.
Take a look at this. These are the tests.
It's going down in Florida?
Yeah, it leveled out and it's going down. That's my report as of yesterday.
Okay, Axios. Good job, Axios. Great graphics there. It's fucking horrifying and terrible. So let's keep pushing, though. We're coming up on 2 hours, I think, pretty quick here. We're definitely got a bit... Oh, my God. I got so much more to do. We'll do the post office story later. Okay, that'll work. So let's talk about American deaths. This is just a quick check-in with some numbers. You've seen some of these charts on the show before, but this is the American map of the website. Just search for COVID information site. I don't know. I don't have the time to put the fucking thing on there. But total confirmed cases in America, 4,700,000. Total deaths as of August 4th, according to this one, 155,515. Those are people who died alone. They died... if they were lucky, they died with a nurse in a hazmat suit, maybe holding a phone for them to see their family. They died terrified. Respiratory issues are a horrible way to die. I dealt with some stuff with my mom, and she had some medical issues related to breathing. And there is something beyond ghastly about not being able to scream because you do not have breath, you do not have oxygen, because your lungs aren't working. I mean, there's lots of different ways your lungs can be messed up, but this is a respiratory, and there's also other complicated ways that the COVID virus seems to be messing with people's bodies and leaving lingering issues. I mean, this what we're looking at on screen right now doesn't reflect those who survive and might be facing greater risks for all kinds of other things down the way. I mean, that's one of the science, parts of the stories. The science of this thing is we still don't really know what long-term life with this thing means. But these are agonizing deaths, coughing and choking and being unable to scream. Not that you have to be screaming when you die, but to not have your voice and to be missing your breath and slowly and some people are dying at home. America's gutted out medical attitude, and this is just an utter nightmare. Okay, let's keep going to the next one. Oh, this is just an oldie but a goodie. This is from January. Let's just listen to what the brave man in charge has to say.
Have you been briefed?
He's being interviewed on CNBC.
Briefed by the CDC? Are the words about a pandemic at this point?
No, we're not at all, and we have it totally under control. It's one person.
It's one person. Don't worry, everybody. What we're going to do? Worry about one person?
Coming in from China, and we have it under control. It's going to be just fine.
Okay.
It's going to be just fine. Don't worry, everybody. My son-in-law will make money off of it, so it'll be fine. Don't worry. Been clearing out some notes and stuff. I have a bunch of messy years of Evernote. I like the program Evernote, but and I found this link to Trump's inauguration that I had bookmarked years back and never really did anything with. The audio is peculiar, and I don't know if this was modified after the tweet it was attached to said it was real, but who knows? I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me at all either way. Honestly, the way this kind of fuck fuck-up-a-stan, which is what we are under Trump. But it is funny. So just listen to, this is his inauguration. This is music playing at his inauguration. And you'll understand what I'm getting at. Here we go. Yes, 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 King. We are the benighted city on a hill. So it's like, oh, there's a Lincoln Memorial. It's a bunch of bands, a bunch of American propaganda flags, and it's the military type band here. Oh god. Perfect. There we are. That's America for you. Okay. And then finally, Trump in the same interview, there'll be a bunch of these clips going around. I just happened across this one. As you know, Jeffrey Epstein, the man who provided victims to the ruling class of all stripes, celebrities, academics, politicians, probably Bill Clinton, definitely Donald Trump. Major names, and he, of course, as we all know, tragically committed suicide when he was in federal custody after attempting to do so a week before. Certainly no foul play at all. The standard procedure for a guy who could potentially is the world, is it shaking now, or is that, so my building sometimes moves because like a truck will drive by, or like they'll move the dumpster or something. Okay, we're good. We had an earthquake the other day too. That anyway, so shit just started. I might have just bumped my desk. I don't. My mic stand is a little okay. Oh god, this is weird. It's weird being alive, isn't it? So anyway, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and then they finally caught his co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. And Trump has already said no, he wishes her well. He's friends with her. They're, you know, this is a pal. You got to give him credit for the loyalty to his. Someone who helped bring him rape victims. So I actually don't know. I haven't heard this before. Or yeah, I'm going to listen to it with you right now.
Okay. All over the country.
Mr. President, the other day a reporter asked you about Ghislaine Maxwell. You said, quote, "I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, but I wish her well, whatever it is." Mr. President, Ghislaine Maxwell has been arrested on allegations of child sex trafficking. Why would you wish such a person well?
First of all, I don't know that, but I do know that
she has.
I don't know that. You know that she was arrested, or you don't know that she did it? You were part of it, you fuckface.
She's been arrested for that. You know that.
Her friend or boyfriend
Epstein
was either killed or committed suicide.
Her friend or boyfriend. I'm willing to be somebody's friend or boyfriend. I like being someone's. Okay, this is not the appropriate context to describe that. Okay, let's rewind it. Play.
Boyfriend
Epstein.
I wanted to hear that again. Video editor.
Wish such a
First
person
of all,
well.
I don't know that, but I do know that
She has. She's been arrested for that. You know
her
that.
friend or boyfriend
Epstein
was either killed or committed suicide in jail.
Even they acknowledged that he was killed, potentially killed. That's not nothing for a president, if you accept the idea that a president's words. I think I remember it saying a whisper from a president is more powerful than it's like some bullshit like that. But I mean that, yeah, like he was killed under your watch, asshole, to benefit him and every other motherfucker in this circle of exploiters.
She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty. I mean, do you know that?
Oh, so you're saying you hope she doesn't die in jail? Is that what you mean by wish her well?
Her boyfriend died in jail, and people are still trying to figure out, how did it happen? Was it suicide? Was he killed?
Oh my God.
And I do wish her well. I'm not looking for anything bad for her. I'm not looking bad for anybody. And they took that and
I mean,
they
she's a
made it
child.
such-
Unless they're black or brown or liberal or his brother or his father or anybody or Dr. Birx or Fauci, old right arm Fauci.
Alleged child
such
sex
a
trafficking.
big deal. But all it is her boyfriend died He died in jail. Was he killed? Was it suicide? I do. I wish her well.
Oh my God. Okay, sorry. I just feel like I should apologize to you, dear listener, for putting that in your head. This whole thing is a nightmare. All right, we're not doing the post office story. We're gonna jump ahead to even more horrifying and traumatic news. This, as I said at the very beginning of the show, in Beirut, this explosion has, and I haven't looked at Twitter in a few hours, so there's probably more information. By the time you hear this, you will know much more accurately, I hope, what happened. And I know for sure there's going to be a big death toll. A lot of people. So these videos are kind of traumatizing. Feel free to click off if you don't want to watch them or listen to them. Part of me kind of is a little reticent. I'm not going to tag this as like a big, like if I were working at doing clickbait writing or something, you would isolate these clips and you would make a video and you would try to do the SEO and try to put in the right keywords and everything into the description and try to maximize the return on the video and try to get money for the views, for the clicks. And I guess that's just the nature of media and advertising in general. If you can get eyeballs to all line up in some direction, you can then charge money to an advertiser for the privilege of stealing a tiny slice of their attention. That's the entertainment business in a nutshell, on the advertising side of the revenue stream versus rentals, or membership. This is so a little part of me is like, this is disaster porn, and I'm participating in it in a way, but I'm justifying it by saying I'm not tagging this as a separate thing, like pretty much everywhere else you're going to see is going to do. And I don't know who filmed these, so I'm not able to give proper credit. But this is a huge deal. This is pretty scary stuff. You might have, I imagine if you're listening to this, you've more than likely seen this on the news already or online or something. So, but we have multiple angles since this hit on Twitter this morning. Let's just play it. Just to describe, I'm not going to describe every single one, but this shot is pretty far away from land. There's lots of buildings in the foreground. In the distance, right in front of the ocean, which is in the far distance, is like a big kind of white building, and there's a huge billow of smoke coming out. If you look closely at this whatever's burning, now when I hit play, I thought the explosion had already happened, but it's not yet. So something is burning, and you see little sparks and kind of little flare-ups. But anyway, let's just watch it. Oh my God, that's crazy. I mean, it's one of the most stunning explosions and you're seeing people are dying in that moment. I mean, there's no way there's not people close to that. And the shockwave pushes out, and it has a mushroom cloud look. I don't believe this is a nuke. Lots of folks on the internet are already saying this is nukey. Saw somebody say that it's nukey. Yeah, I get that you'd think that, but it's pretty clear, like, we wouldn't have video if it were, and it's not. I don't know. So I don't want to spread misinformation about what it might be. I do have a tweet from someone who seemed like they knew what they're talking about that will give an idea, which I suspect is probably going to be the explanation. But again, a healthy dose of skepticism. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But let's just rewind just a touch. Let's go frame by frame. Oh, there we go. So huge explosion. It completely overwhelms the building that it's next to. And you see the ball expanding quickly. An orange cloud seems to be on the front edge of the ball, kind of like an orange smoke. The building is it's next to gets completely overwhelmed. There's like a lot of suddenly this white cloud envelops the entire thing. This is the part that looks like a nuclear mushroom cloud is developing, and it starts to very quickly spread through towards the camera shot, and the person filming immediately kind of freaks out and runs away. Like if a person could stand there while that happens, it's like, how the hell did you do like that? Can't be. It's really scary. So They've run inside somewhere. Now they've redirected the camera back at the shot, so the person survived the initial shot. They were far enough away, I hope. It seems to be. And that's insane. That's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. So let's take a look at it again. Here's another angle. So this is also from land. This looks to be a little bit closer. I'm not going to do the same play-by-play. We're just going to play this, and you're going to hear the audio. There it is. Okay. Wow. Unbelievable. Since we're doing it, let's go frame by frame again real quick. I hope, sorry this is boring for you audio listeners. Let me know. Send me a message, and I won't do stuff like this, or or maybe I'll edit it out or something, but shit, I hit it wrong. So, okay, back up. One frame at a time. I just want to see the initial moment because it's a different angle. So you actually, if you're watching closely, you can see little sparks, little kind of things firing off. Look kind of like fireworks from a distance within the kind of initial billowing cloud coming out. And all of a sudden, you just have this flash, and similar to what happened before. One more, or actually two more, and then we'll look at some tweets real quick and a little bit of context for what might be. Another further away shot, and we'll see it again. It's closer to the water. So this angle is from the building next to it, or meaning like a different angle. The building is blocking it more now, so they've moved. Not they, but it's a different angle. I'm bad at this. Thanks for bearing with me. Here we go. Now that one really shows how the cloud develops. Let's hit it again. So, okay, now the orange cloud is kind of risen up here, and then you see this big white cloud really envelop it all. That is just something else, and like it's almost like a huge marshmallow, sort of. Of course, the camera immediately, and terrified by that. They were definitely within the range of being at least hit by some of the dust for sure. So this shot is from water. So these are some boaters looking at it. Now they've noticed a big fire on the shore, so they're filming it. And let's start it up. They zoom in. I don't know what they're saying. Oh my God, it's a big fire. Wonder what it is. And then wow. The time is interesting. That's that sound, light moves faster than sound thing that we all know about. So, okay, real quick, let's just go through the frames real fast here. So, yeah, there it is. Let's rewind it to the opening moment. This is like disaster movie times a million, man. I mean, this is just a huge thing. And this giant white cloud just envelops it all real fast. Turn the audio down there. Okay, so yeah, but the white cloud also dissipates really quickly too, which I think is interesting. So hitting the guys with the camera and huge billow. Wow. So hopefully people, I mean, I know people are hurt. I did see a video of a hospital where there's lots of blood. I mean, so who knows what the death toll is going to be. I'm sure it's big. I did clip this out. This is from someone, Ankit Panda on Twitter, NKTPND. And his profile said that he's an author of a book about North Korea and a bomb. So it sounds like he has some knowledge about it. Big dose of skepticism. This is just a thing I caught on Twitter. So I don't want to be spreading misinformation. But this did seem plausible. Although at first I was kind of like, So anyway, he says, looks like a fire before the explosion, followed by a sharp upward rupture, followed by a larger fireball, and then eventually, due to massive heat generation, the spontaneous condensation of atmospheric water in the shockwave may be an industrial accident caused by a fire. Then he goes on, orange hue may be due to industrial storage of nitrocellulose, for example, getting blown up. Would produce orange residual smoke. There are other explanations. And IIRC, which is, if I recall correctly, I had to look that up, didn't know what it meant. If the above account is correct, would be pretty similar to the disastrous 2015 explosion in Tianjin, China. And I guess the word I need to use is fireworks. So people are saying that it seems to be perhaps a fireworks-related thing, where that would be indicated by the little flashes that we were seeing before it blew up. At first I was like, I can't know. How does it just... I mean, I know when a fireworks factory goes off, it's kind of like a sustained, almost comical thing where there's all building, and it can be devastating fire and everything, but how does it... There had to be something there to ignite it. So, of course, people think nuclear explosion, bomb dropped, or bomb set, or some sort of planted explosive that was there to go up. And that still might be the case. We'll find, I mean, you might already know, considering, you're in the future for where I am right now. But there has been other fireworks disasters. And if you think about manufacturing of fireworks, they're probably, everything comes in bigger containers until they're put into smaller containers. So it might not just be a whole bunch of a warehouse full of shelves of individuated fireworks. This could be like a raw materials kind of thing, like where they have the giant bins and barrels and some concentration of fireworks of material that is used in explosives. And it's just plausible. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I shouldn't even be commenting on it. It's just tragic and sad. But in 2015, there was a story. This is from BBC. What we know about the Tianjin firework explosion. I didn't get a lot of information because I didn't want to go on to this too much, but just a little bit here. 2 massive explosions in the port of Tianjin, northern China, have killed more than 100 people, left hundreds more injured, and devastated large areas of the city. Much of what took place or is still happening now is unclear, but here's what we do know. How did the blasts happen? They took place at a warehouse at the port, which contained hazardous and flammable chemicals, including calcium carbide, sodium cyanide, potassium nitrate, ammonium nitrate, and sodium nitrate. All right, I actually took a quick little break to look up a little more. Definitely didn't have enough information here. So how big were the explosions? The China Earthquake Network Center said the initial explosion in a city with a population of around 15 million had a power equivalent to 3 tons of TNT detonating, while the second was the equivalent of 21 tons. The second was so big that satellites orbiting Earth picked it up as well. Chinese data site CNBeta published pictures showing the sudden flare. I want to show a video of it. This is pretty intense and pretty wild, so we'll just go ahead and hit play. Okay, nighttime, by the way, just to set the scene. It's a nighttime shot. There's a big glowy fire going on. This is the first of 2 big explosions. And there's like a building in the foreground, and just a standard sort of cell phone footage from an onlooker from a good distance away. Here we go.
Oh! I'm videoing it. What the?
I think that might be a gas station or something.
The gas. Whoa! Oh!
Okay.
What the?
So that's massive. This just giant flaming fireball. Huge spark, or a huge just raining down glowing trails.
Are we dangerous here?
Yeah, we're dangerous. Oh my God!
That's the right response. That's pretty apocalyptic. I mean, that is pretty intense. That's crazy. So, wow. That happened in 2015. And I just looked up a little bit more information. This is from a little bit later. I don't remember what month. This is November 2016. Chinese logistics company chairman given death sentence over Tianjin explosion. There's a little... it's still playing. There's a little change to that. But a warehouse owned by Ruhai exploded in August 2015. Okay, so it's over a year later. And killed 173 people. There's a photo here. The head of a Chinese logistics company this week was given what's known as a suspended death sentence. I thought God is the only one that does that. Isn't that what life is? For his role in a massive 2015 explosion in Tianjin. But it obviously freaked up those cars, man. I mean, this is a big field of cars that are all blackened and charred. Buildings destroyed. It's very disaster movie. A little bit from this manufacturing.net article, my favorite website. Great porn. A warehouse owned by Ruhai exploded in August 2015 and killed 173 people, including 99 firefighters and 11 police officers who were unaware of the facility's dangerous chemical stockpiles. Nearly 800 others were injured, primarily due to the warehouse's illegally close proximity to nearby neighborhoods and the chemicals compromised air. See, there should be an apostrophe on the chemicals because it's compromised air is possessive to the chemical. Chemicals, they just didn't. Okay. Come on, manufacturing.net. Get your shit together. Where's your hire an editor? Compromised air, water, and soil in the immediate area. An investigation found that highly flammable nitrocellulose used in medical applications and in lacquers lost humidifying agents, dried out, and began to burn in Tianjin's hot August weather. So, it's scary. Messy, huh? Stuff has to... humans like to gather up supplies. And we figured out a lot of volatile compounds. Not everything is sunflowers and dream catchers. Although dream catchers can ignite on fire if you reach your dream, which is why no one ever has. And you shouldn't put them above your bed. Why am I rambling about that? Could you mitigate these types of things? No, there's just no way. No, it costs money to have an inspector or a government agency that would go in there and say, hey, don't you know we have a rule? No, don't put those big boom chemicals all in one spot. Nope, that would get into the profits. I'm obviously trying to make a ideological point. These things can be completely prevented. These are negligent homicides. This is terrible. The regulatory apparatus it varies country by country, but it's one reason it's terrifying that we have a regime in America that is determined to dismantle the regulations in America, the EPA especially. You poison people slowly, by the way. It's a lot less good for video than these big explosions when chemicals are mismanaged. So whether or not the one that just happened today in Beirut was a firework something, it was clearly some kind of chemical explosion. It may have been deliberate, it might not have been. We don't know. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I do believe it's not a nuke. It seems persuasive that even a small nuke would probably be a little more intense. I don't know. What do I know? Who the hell am I even weighing on that? So, okay, good. All right, there you go. It's horrifying. More terrible shit news in the world. Thank you for listening, everybody. I appreciate your attention. Clicks, likes, subscribes. Working on the show, working on other stuff. I'm staying busy. I'm trying to get a little bit more regimented, as you've heard me say for 4 years. And I did get the Patreon account going. I'm yet to really build it out. I mean, you have to put in a shit, and so I'll be looking forward to doing something with that. I kind of do want to launch it earlier than I would. I would like to wait till I had like with Suck Professor, my YouTube channel, one of them. We started a Patreon because people asked us to. We had a little fan base, a little audience that had gotten used to our videos being put out and was really excited for them, and it was really flattering and incentivizing, and they were like, do a Patreon so we can give you money. And I'd like to wait till that point with this show and try to do that, but I know that that's a long way off. And so I believe that, or at least this is my thought, maybe I'll change my mind, but that if I start the Patreon when it's sort of a little too premature, that it'll incentivize me to keep at it too. It'll make it make this kind of fake it till you make it kind of thing, but just sort of to keep me on point. I have fun doing this. It's, as I always say, it's just all the extra work that goes on, and I've got a lot of plates spinning with these video projects, but the way to be independent, which is my goal, is to consistently do a show and to ask the audience to support your efforts. And to justify that exchange, I have to be putting out something that people deem is worth value, and part of that value is predictability, and I have not been offering that lately, meaning like consistent release schedule and stuff. So anyway, that's where I'm thinking about doing the Patreon, and I'm also thinking about doing some Twitch streaming, not for money. I know there's a lot of money flowing around on Twitch for the ones that have, but I play Rocket League, and I've been playing it a long time. This is weird, but it's like a game I just started. Actually, I think on Suck Professor is the very first time I ever played Rocket League years ago. It's soccer with cars, and there's also a basketball version. Sports podcast, see? And I'm kind of good at it. Not like oh my God, look how good he is, but I'm not embarrassingly shitty. And I've been a lifelong gamer, and I like games, but I can't. And I'd love to have the time, or even just the emotional capacity to get sucked into like a really big, deep game, like a Dark Souls or Divinity 2 or Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out in November. But those games really consume you if you're really going to enjoy them and play them a lot. So, but Rocket League is like I can just take a half-hour break, play. It takes about 10 minutes per game, I'd say, and you get on there, you play, you have a good run, you score a few goals, maybe you fuck up a bunch, and that's it. But I'm thinking like, it might be worthwhile to like put a Twitch together, and maybe I do actually. So I did get the URL on Twitch on my. I did open up. I did a little Twitch streaming with Suck Professor, so I have that URL. But I've gotten twitch.com/winners and losers, which is great. And the Patreon is patreon.com/winners and losers, which is cool. I was kind of surprised that was available. So I don't know. These are just some things I'm thinking about doing as far as expanding this. Ultimately, I could imagine this becoming a full-time. I mean, that's kind of the goal. So I'm sort of working towards that, as well as I think there's some hope with the woodworking stuff. And it's also all kind of a way of advertising myself to work for people, because I do make some money doing editing for people, since I'm a capable editor. And when you find someone that respects it and pays you well for it, that's cool. I'm really digging that, because it's a fucking hard thing, man. Sitting here turning into a box of sticks, of popsicle sticks. I feel like my body is just converting. It's like shriveling. No, I wish it was shriveling, but like it's not healthy for your body to sit this much. Video editing is not the only cause for constant sitting. So, all right, why am I rambling? Take care of yourself. Take care of your friends. Reach out to somebody. Get on the phone. Get on the phone and talk to somebody. Say it. Hey, let's chat. I reached out to a couple people. They were, one of them ignored me. No, I don't know. But, it's weird. It's a weird time. Everybody's dealing with this shit in their own ways. Be safe. Wash your hands. Make sure you vote like Obama wants you to. It's the only thing he wants you to do, so you can blame those of you who don't, instead of any kind of systemic awareness. And be careful. Be careful out there. Be patient. Forgive. Forgive the crazy maniacs running around that punching Applebee's because freedom, and they want to be able to cough onto a waiter's food. How can people go to restaurants and be comfortable? How the fuck can people sit at a restaurant when a waiter is wearing a mask? I would be so unnerved by just that visual of a person in a mask bringing me a fork because it fell on the ground, bringing me a plate of food, a plate of absorbent organic material I'm going to put into my shithole. No, I don't start at the bottom. The mouth is the start of the shithole. Okay? It's all one system. How can people go out to eat? I like to go out. When you're poor and poverty-stricken, it's not that fun. I guess you know what I'm saying. Like, if you have a ton of money and like a nice restaurant, it's cool. It's good to go to a nice restaurant. I want to get back into dating. I'm lonely and horny, like everybody. And I want to alleviate that with temporary connections with women. And then, maybe you text them every few years after that and say, hey, Trump sucks, doesn't he? That's what dating is. Point being, life is interrupted by all this. But some people are like, how can you go to a restaurant and be okay with a waiter wearing a face shield and gloves? I guess in a sense, I've gotten takeout food. I've gotten plenty of McDonald's and shit food lately. I'm back on healthy eating finally after about a week, and I'm feeling better again. But I guess that's a version of it too. It's a little more out of sight, out of mind, though, knowing that the viruses inside those kitchens are not being like. I just can't. It's amazing. I get that you want to get back to normal life, and I get that you want to have a social experience, and I get that a lot of people define their life more heavily around social behavior than I do. So it's weird to me, but I just what is going on? How do you relax? How do you get comfortable? Okay. All right. That was my ending. Thanks for listening. Love you. Be safe. You're worth something. You deserve better. And you should forgive yourself for not being perfect. And you're going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Goodbye.